Imagine a world in which you need never be alone. You touch a switch, turn a dial, and the perfect lover steps into your arms. When the tiny crystal in the palm of your hand flashes its final message, your time is up.
Imagine a futuristic world where minimalism goes to the extreme, where the costumes aren't just futuristic in design, they are barely there. In the 1976 science fiction film Logan's Run, one actress's costume was so revealing that it became a focal point of controversy, with the actress herself expressing her dislike for it. That actress was Agutter, who played the female lead, Jessica. Her costume, which was more of a series of barely connected pieces of fabric, was more than just a statement of 1970s fashion. It was an exercise in wardrobe malfunction waiting to happen. In this video, we'll dive into the world of Logan's Run, the iconic yet often overlooked sci-fi film that captured audiences' imaginations with its post-apocalyptic dystopia, visionary special effects, and scandalously minimal costumes. And at the heart of the costume drama, Agutter's barely there outfit that almost didn't stay on during filming. But was it just the outfit that had Agutter frustrated? What was it like working under the pressure of such revealing attire? And how did the costume design for the film set the stage for future cinematic costuming? Let's explore all of this and more. The sci-fi fashion revolution, 1970s costume design. The 1970s was a transformative decade in many respects, and fashion, particularly in science fiction cinema, played a significant role in reflecting and influencing the period's social and cultural changes. This era saw the rise of bold experimentation in both fashion and design, with futuristic avant-garde styles taking center stage. Sci-fi films of the 1970s embraced the idea of the future, often through imaginative and innovative costume design. These costumes not only served to transport audiences into new worlds, but also acted as cultural signifiers, embodying the hopes, fears, and aspirations of a society on the brink of change. The fashion revolution of the 1970s was shaped by various cultural movements, including the rise of disco, the emergence of punk rock, and the continued fascination with space-age imagery. Designers were inspired by new materials, futuristic aesthetics, and the desire to break away from traditional conventions. In the realm of science fiction cinema, fashion became a tool for creating visually striking worlds where the future seemed both highly stylized and eerily possible. Films like 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968, and Star Wars, 1977, set the stage for a visual revolution. But it was in the films of the 1970s that sci-fi fashion truly came into its own. Costume design in sci-fi films often aimed to project a sense of the future, and as a result, many of the costumes were designed with a forward-thinking approach. One of the defining characteristics of the 1970s sci-fi look was the use of synthetic materials like spandex, lycra, and satin. These fabrics were revolutionary at the time, offering new possibilities for costume designers. These materials had a sleek, shiny quality that helped create a futuristic, almost otherworldly look. They also provided a form-fitting silhouette that emphasized the human body in a bold, sensual way, an aesthetic that was increasingly popular in the fashion world during the 1970s. In Logan's Run, 1976, a quintessential 1970s sci-fi film, costume design played a pivotal role in shaping the film's futuristic world. Set in a dystopian society where citizens live in a controlled, age-restricted environment, the costumes reflect the highly regulated and artificial nature of this future society. Agutter's character, Jessica 6, is dressed in a series of sleek, form-fitting outfits made of shiny, synthetic materials that evoke a sense of the sterile, controlled environment she inhabits. These costumes are not only functional but also serve as a visual representation of the film's themes of freedom, youth, and conformity. The minimalist aesthetic of Logan's Run and similar films was a departure from the elaborate, often cumbersome costumes seen in earlier sci-fi films. The use of simple, clean lines paired with futuristic fabrics created a look that was both elegant and streamlined. This minimalist approach was reflective of the 1970s obsession with efficiency, technology, and progress. Designers also took inspiration from the space-age optimism of the 1960s, embracing the idea that the future would be sleek, clean, and high-tech. Moreover, the fashion choices in 1970s sci-fi films also reflected the growing interest in the possibilities of human enhancement and the blending of technology with the human form. The costumes in Logan's Run emphasized the physicality of the characters, with tight-fitting clothes that accentuated their bodies. This made the characters appear as though they were part of a technologically advanced society, where the human body itself was being shaped and controlled by the environment. In addition to being a representation of the future, the costumes in 1970s sci-fi films were also a commentary on contemporary issues. The sleek, tight-fitting outfits of Logan's Run, for example, highlighted the contrast between the controlled, sterile environment of the film's dystopian world and the desire for individuality and freedom. This tension between conformity and freedom became a central theme in many films of the era, and the costumes were a key part of visually exploring this dichotomy. Logan's Run presents a society governed by rigid control and a strict limit on age, with citizens required to die once they turn 30. The film depicts a world where this age restriction serves as a method of population control, maintaining a utopia-like environment that appears to be a paradise to its inhabitants. However, this paradise is only maintained at the cost of individual autonomy. The society of Logan's Run is a classic example of the shattered Earth genre, defined by dystopian settings, where humanity is trapped in a cycle of environmental degradation, social control, and ethical compromise. The shattered Earth genre, which emerged during the 1970s, is marked by films exploring dark and decaying futures. In these worlds, a catastrophic event, whether ecological, technological, or both, has left the Earth in a state of ruin, and survival is a constant struggle. Films like Soylent Green, 1973, ZPG, 1972, and THX 1138, 1971, also dealt with the idea of dystopian societies where survival was increasingly difficult and the idea of individual freedom was heavily restricted. These films explored overpopulation, ecological collapse, and the breakdown of society's moral compass. What set Logan's Run apart, however, was its focus on youth and beauty as a critical element of the dystopia. In this world, citizens are conditioned to live in perpetual youth and to regard aging as a negative, even dangerous concept. The idea that everyone must die at 30 was not merely about controlling population numbers, but was also tied to an aesthetic that valued youthfulness and beauty above all else. This dystopian future was engineered to avoid the perceived burden of an aging population, creating a sterile, superficial society where physical appearance was paramount. The exploration of youth, beauty, and death in Logan's Run presents a stark contrast to other films in the shattered Earth genre, where the focus is often on societal collapse and the grim consequences of human excess. The film's focus on beauty and the body as forms of control brings a unique psychological aspect to the genre. Citizens are not only controlled by the state, but by their own vanity and fear of aging, contributing to a world that is emotionally and socially stunted. In the context of the shattered Earth genre, Logan's Run is also an exploration of rebellion. The film's protagonist, Logan, begins as a loyal enforcer of the system, but eventually questions the society's rules. His desire to escape the system mirrors the broader desire for individual freedom that is often present in dystopian narratives. The pursuit of freedom is a central theme in many of these films, and in Logan's Run, it is encapsulated by the search for sanctuary, a mythical place where people can live without the restrictions of the city. The movie's special effects, futuristic cityscapes, and complex societal themes all contribute to its standing as a landmark in the sci-fi genre. However, One of the most enduring aspects of Logan's Run, albeit for the wrong reasons, is its costumes. Designed to reflect the sterile, controlled nature of the society, the costumes often emphasize form-fitting, shiny, synthetic materials that reinforce the society's obsession with youth and beauty. While the costumes were intended to create a sleek, futuristic aesthetic, their sometimes dated and overly dramatic appearance has led to a somewhat campy reputation. Nevertheless, these costumes remain an iconic representation of the film's theme of superficial perfection and control. A minimalist, futuristic aesthetic. The design of costumes in Logan's Run effectively reflected the dystopian society depicted in the film, where youth and beauty are worshipped, and everything else is deemed secondary. Bill Thomas, the film's costume designer, crafted looks that not only defined the futuristic aesthetic, but also underlined the thematic elements of the narrative. Unlike other sci-fi films of the era, Logan's Run opted for a minimalist approach that emphasized sleekness and sensuality, offering a stark contrast to the bulky, technical designs typically seen in the genre at the time. One of the most striking features of the film's costume design was its minimalism. The outfits were designed to be visually striking while maintaining a level of simplicity. The use of synthetic materials such as spandex and lycra created body-hugging garments that accentuated the wearer's form, imbuing the characters with a sense of uniformity and uniform beauty. This fit the film's depiction of a society obsessed with physical appearance, where aging was seen as a sin, and the citizens of the city were forever young and beautiful. The choice of these materials, which were often associated with sports and activewear, further suggested a society where pleasure, physicality, and freedom from traditional social constraints took precedence. Thomas was also heavily influenced by contemporary fashion trends, especially the rise of disco culture, which emphasized glamour, extravagance, and freedom of expression. The vibrant colors, shiny fabrics, and figure-flattering cuts were all reminiscent of the disco era, creating a futuristic yet familiar look. Incorporation of these trends helped ground the film in a recognizable contemporary aesthetic while simultaneously pushing it into the future. The costumes became a commentary on the consumer-driven and appearance-focused culture of the 1970s, amplified within the context of a high-tech future where every individual's value was judged solely by their outward appearance. Jessica's costume, worn by Jenny Agutter, is a prime example of how minimalist aesthetics were taken to an extreme. Her wardrobe often featured garments with minimal coverage, leaving her character open to the full embrace of the hedonistic world she inhabited. This design choice was essential in highlighting the way in which beauty and youth were so prioritized that modesty became a non-issue. In the world of Logan's Run, clothes were not only functional but symbolic, representing an individual's place within the rigid societal framework. The overall effect of the costume design in Logan's Run was to create a visually cohesive world that felt both futuristic and immediately connected to the trends and cultural attitudes of the time. It was an era when ideas of freedom, beauty, and self-expression were at the forefront of popular consciousness. By focusing on sleek, revealing outfits and cutting-edge materials, the design emphasized the disconnect between individual identity and the collective need for conformity. The people of the city were trapped in a society that prized physical beauty above all else, leaving them with little room for personal expression beyond their appearances. This minimalist approach to costume design in Logan's Run not only helped distinguish it from other sci-fi films of the era, but also reinforced its commentary on the dangers of a society obsessed with youth and beauty. By opting for sleek, sensual clothing that stripped away any unnecessary layers, Thomas created an environment where the characters' identities were nakedly exposed, mirroring the societal expectations placed upon them. Ultimately, the costumes in Logan's Run served as an integral part of the film's larger exploration of conformity, youth, and the shallow pursuit of pleasure. Jenny Agutter's costume. The costume worn by Jenny Agutter's character Jessica in Logan's Run is perhaps the most iconic and memorable in the entire film. The barely there look was a radical departure from the traditional attire seen in other sci-fi movies of the era, and it quickly became emblematic of the film's futuristic, hypersexualized vision of society. The costume consisted of two tiny pieces of fabric, one for the front and one for the back, connected by a thin chain, offering little more than the bare minimum of coverage. This minimalism was not just a stylistic choice, but also a reflection of the film's themes, where the residents of the futuristic city live in a world focused on pleasure and the constant pursuit of youth and beauty. The design of Jessica's costume was intentionally provocative, aiming to reflect the hypersexualized nature of the society in which she lived. In the film's world, beauty and youth are prized above all else, and modesty is almost non-existent. The revealing nature of Jessica's outfit symbolizes how this society values aesthetics over everything else, and it also underlines the objectification of the female form. Jessica's character, as a result, is both a product and a symbol of this world, representing the consequences of living in a society that reduces people to their physical attributes. Her costume is undeniably striking, but it also raises questions about the portrayal of women in science fiction films of the time. However, despite the symbolic significance of the costume, it was not without its challenges, both for the production and for Agutter herself. The outfit, though designed to make a bold statement, proved to be impractical and uncomfortable. Agutter herself has admitted that wearing the costume was far from enjoyable. The design was notoriously difficult to keep in place, and the fabric would often slip or shift during filming, requiring constant adjustments. This constant battle to keep the costume intact created a series of logistical problems on set, with Agutter frequently concerned that the costume might malfunction at an inopportune moment. In interviews, she has openly expressed her discomfort with the outfit, admitting that Logan's run was an embarrassing experience for her at times. Despite this, she has also acknowledged the film's cultural impact and expressed pride in having been a part of it. The technical challenges of Jessica's costume were not just about its physical properties, but also about its symbolic role in the film. As one of the most revealing outfits in cinema at the time, it pushed boundaries and created a distinct visual identity for the character. The discomfort Agutter experienced while wearing the costume speaks to the larger issues within the film industry at the time, where the demands of creating a visually striking product sometimes came at the expense of the actor's comfort and well-being. The costume's design was not just a personal challenge for Agutter, but also a representation of how the film industry at large sometimes treated its stars, particularly women, in an effort to achieve the desired aesthetic. Despite the difficulties, Jessica's barely there costume became an iconic part of Logan's run's legacy. It is a striking visual that encapsulates the hypersexualized, youth-obsessed society the film portrays. Even though the costume itself presented technical and personal challenges, it remains a defining image of the film and one of the most memorable aspects of Jenny Agutter's performance. The character of Jessica, draped in the barely there costume, continues to be remembered as a symbol of Logan's run's bold approach to costume design and its commentary on a society obsessed with physical perfection. Filming Logan's Run was a memorable experience for Jenny Agutter, but it was not without its challenges, particularly due to the infamous costume she wore as Jessica. While the futuristic design of the costume was intended to reflect the hypersexualized and hedonistic society of the film, it proved to be both physically uncomfortable and constantly at risk of malfunctioning. The outfit, a minimalistic and revealing design held together by a thin chain, left Agutter with little to work with, leading to frequent moments where she had to adjust it during scenes to prevent it from falling off. This constant battle with the costume became one of her most frustrating experiences on set, yet Agutter handled the situation with remarkable professionalism. In interviews, Agutter described how in some scenes she found herself continuously pulling the costume back into place. she openly expressed how difficult it was to perform in such an impractical outfit. The minimalism that the costume embodied was meant to serve as a commentary on the lack of modesty in the future society depicted in Logan's Run, where physical beauty and youth were paramount. While the costume's design was intended to underscore these thematic elements, it also created significant challenges for Agutter as an actor. Despite these obstacles, Agutter's commitment to her role and her ability to maintain her poise under such uncomfortable circumstances helped to elevate her portrayal of Jessica, making her one of the most memorable characters in science fiction cinema. Agutter's experience on set serves as a testament to her professionalism. She was able to overcome the constant wardrobe malfunctions and discomfort to deliver a performance that was both graceful and compelling. She found a way to embody the character of Jessica, youthful, beautiful, and rebellious, despite the distracting nature of her costume. Over time, Agutter came to accept the costume as part of her character's identity and the film's aesthetic, even though it was an integral part of her discomfort. As a result, Jessica's barely there look became one of the most iconic aspects of the film, representing not just the society in which she lived, but also Agutter's resilience and ability to adapt to the challenges of filmmaking. Beyond Agutter's personal experience, Logan's Run also left a lasting impact on the science fiction genre, particularly in terms of its approach to costume design and the depiction of dystopian societies. The Minimalist, revealing costumes used in the film, helped set the tone for future films that would explore similar themes of youth, beauty, and the societal obsession with appearance. Although Logan's Run might not have been the most groundbreaking sci-fi film in terms of plot or special effects, its visual aesthetic, particularly the costumes, became a reference point for later films in the genre. The film's fashion choices were ahead of their time, influencing how subsequent films depicted futuristic societies. The focus on sleek, form-fitting, and often revealing outfits would be mirrored in later films such as Blade Runner and The Matrix, which also explored dystopian worlds obsessed with control, aesthetics, and perfection. Logan's Run tapped into a growing cultural fascination with beauty and youth in the 1970s, and this obsession with physical appearance would only become more pronounced in future films. Agutter's iconic look, along with the minimalist approach to costume design, helped cement Logan's Run's place in cinematic history, making it a significant influence on both the sci-fi genre and fashion in film. The film's visual impact resonates even today, with its costume standing as a symbol of a future society obsessed with image, youth, and conformity. Can you imagine being forced to wear a costume so revealing that it constantly kept falling off? That was the reality for Jenny Agutter in Logan's Run. Her barely there outfit wasn't just a fashion statement, it was a constant battle to keep it in place. But what did it really feel like behind the scenes of one of the most iconic sci-fi films of the 1970s? Watch this video to uncover the shocking truth behind the scenes of Logan's Run and why Jenny Agutter hated her costume. Want to know more about the controversial costumes and behind-the-scenes drama of Logan's Run? Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into iconic films and the secrets they hold.